Welcome to the NRL Fantasy Fanatics podcast. I'm Random, joined once again by Welshy. Welcome back, mate.
What's happening, lads?
And joining us, you're basically a co-caster with us now. You're not a guest anymore. It's Archer.
Hey fellas, I'm a bad smell.
Yeah, one we want to get rid of.
I have been trying.
How is your week, guys?
Go on, Welshy, you kick it off.
Yeah, I'm
still. I missed out last week because I've been ill. I'm still a bit ill, but I'm getting there. Excited to be back.
And how'd your fantasy team go, mate?
You know exactly how it went. I don't think it needs to be broadcast. Now, to be fair, last week, a small jump up the rankings. I had a really, really bad round 3. Just barely in the 700s, and that's really affected it going forward, I think. But I think I've made a few changes now. Steady, it's not very. Still needs a few more. I think I'm missing the odd gun, but yeah, not too bad.
And what about you, Archer?
Oh, I had another shitty week and actually dropped another 1,000 odd places. I don't know. I thought the changes I made to my team were good. We harped on about Luke Lewis, and then he had his worst score of the season. So can't win.
I feel partially responsible for that.
Nah.
Who was the pick last week? Who was the trade in?
Lockie Lewis. Sorry, not Luke. Lockie.
Oh, right,
43 is not bad.
It's not, and if that's like gonna be his worst score of the year, then I'm probably still happy with the trade. It just is annoying to come the week you trade him in
and see Chanel Harris score 56.
Yeah, exactly.
It is Chanel's, not Channel. We sure about that now?
No, I'm pretty sure they said Chanel was the only name I've ever said right on the podcast.
Yeah, that was filth. I think he can confirm that one.
Yeah. Good. My team went alright. I clawed up 2,000 places, which is nice. I wish I took Chanel over Cartwright, but I'm all aboard the party train. I'm still playing Cartwright again this week. Come for 50, mate. He'll be right.
Did you pick up Cartwright, Welshy?
Yeah, yes.
Oof.
After saying 50 minutes before that I was riding with him with pain, taking the Chanel. Chanel, we decided, yeah?
Chanel, yeah.
If I just say Tavita Harris, that's a bit easier for me anyway.
It's Harris Tavita, though. Can't even do that bit right.
Yeah, you do realise in Wales everything is back to front, so it's good. That's good for me. But no, I'm still happy with Cartwright long term. I think he'll have to average him over the next 5 weeks.
Okay, sorry to cut you off there, Random.
No. I thought you were asking if I brought him in. But yeah, no. Did you? So you didn't grab Cardi? So you're the one of us that didn't make the mistake so far.
I didn't. That's correct. Yeah, I made my own mistakes.
I'd still argue that there's nothing much wrong with Cardi. If he's playing 80, he's gonna average over 35.
Yeah,
and he's gonna make a bare minimum. That is, I think.
30 is what I expected from Kerrigan and Brown. So I'm not gonna get cut up about 30, but it just coincides with Chanel scoring 56, and it makes it look bad. He'll be right.
Yeah, that is a pain. But I think there's every chance this week. If he completely bombs the rookie, and Carty's there with a solid 35, 40 points, you're going to be laughing in the long run. But I don't think he's a bad pick anyway. And
are you
actually looking at?
Are you playing him in the 17? Or are you out 17? Yeah, Carty.
Oh, Carty started for me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I've got him in the 17. I've brought in Chanel this week, but. Okay. Yeah, it's something that I'm still tossing up, but I think I'll stick with Cartwright.
Okay.
So, Welshy, what were your trades this week?
I'm still undecided. I was hoping you two could help me out, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've got a big bank, I think over 400k, which I planned on for last week. I dumped Friend.
Okay.
Because I couldn't be waiting around even if it was a week or two. I just don't trust that shoulder in the long run. So I stuck with McCulloch he's not been sent the world of light, but he's not losing that much money. He's a pretty safe 45 floor, I think. So I bought in Rain, which I'm happy with in the long run. Solid 40s. I can't really argue with that. But this week is the way I'm struggling for the for my trade-ins. I can pretty much get anyone. The two players I really want are Crichton and Ponga. I can get them both in this week, but it means getting rid of Gillette, and I don't really want to get rid of him yet. So it looks like I get on the cow.
So wait, do you already have Bateman?
No. The theory on Bateman, they're not getting him in now, is he is going to go up in price. I think he'll end up leveling up in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and bad score or two, and then hopefully catch him around the price he is now within the next maybe 4 or 5 weeks. So just before buys. I'm not really planning for that yet, because my luck, I'll bring him in the next 2 or 3 weeks. He'll go well, but then I'm getting injured before 12, which will be a real pain in the dick. So I'm probably going to end up waiting on Bateman.
So that's okay. I don't mind him getting injured. He's not in my team.
Do you think he's a must now, or would you wait for him?
Well, there's actually a debate for Ponga and Bateman in one of the questions, so I'll leave that for a little bit later.
Okay. Yeah.
But for me, I think if you can get him in, I would lean more towards Bateman over Ponga, who might not rise in cash.
Where are you struggling in points, though, in your 17? Welshy, is it all over the place, week to week, like myself, or is there one?
Well, obviously, I'm going down to McInnes, Smith, Cook, so my hooker scoring has been pretty mediocre. There's been a couple of 60s.
Yeah.
Well, McCulloch, there's quite a bit of invested in McCulloch, and he's just been plodding around. His second proposition, starting the season with Totola, who, funny enough, went pretty big last week in comparison to what he had been going after. I got rid of him. And I got Laurie with Fafita. So there's nothing wrong with Fafita, obviously. Laurie is going. I've got no problem with Laurie's 40, high 30s, low 40s, and it looks like he's got a bit more of a sustained role now with Sims getting injured last week. So I'm not too worried about that. I think I've got too much money invested in my second rowers, where a lot of people have been running Garner. I've got Garner on my bench, but a lot of people have been running him in the starting second row and allowing them to spend the money elsewhere, which has seen big points from people like Bateman.
Who's your other gun in the second row then? So I assume you've got Arrow and Murray.
Arrow and Murray, yeah.
Who's partnering with them?
Gillette.
Okay. I'd probably
not again. Slightly unders, but he's making money slowly. He's not been very explosive. But yeah, I think I've spent too much money there early doors. And another big expense was Edwards, who's been absolutely shithouse.
Have you still got him in your team?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm reluctant to let him go at the moment. Now he's lost that much cash.
There's all chance he loses way more now. He's out on the wing.
The way the Panthers have been playing, which completely not using their fullback, I think he'll hold. I think he'll be around 30s, maybe 35. Potentially, if he can jag a few tries.
I've got Edwards and I'm trading him out this week just because I think he dumps another 30k off. And I don't want to lose 30k.
What's your wing fullback look like then, Welshy? You're obviously playing him, I assume?
Tedesco, right. Edwards, Sivo. Burns. I've kept Burns, so I'm reluctant to let go of him because I think he could potentially be a borderline wing fullback keeper. And I spent too many trades early getting out the shithouses that I don't want to take him out and potentially bring him back in later. So my other thing was if Burns goes, it's going to have to be for someone like Ponga and just not bring Burns back in later on.
So you're going to have Sivo and Edwards in your scoring each week?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I would be wanting to bring in just even if you're keeping Edwards, I'd be wanting to bring in a wing fullback so you didn't necessarily have to play the two of them week to week.
Yes, that's one of the things I had been looking at.
Yeah.
How much money does Gillette have to make?
What's he on now? What's he averaging? 40, probably about another 70, 80k.
So he's about as underpriced as Ponga is at this point, and Bateman's another 100, 150k.
Mm.
Like I don't see the point in keeping Gillette if you can improve not having to play Sivo or Edwards. And at this point, it's a coin flip
I
between
agree.
both of them.
I think then you'd have Garner in your 17, and you probably got a better chance with his scoring than gambling on both Sivo and Edwards.
But can't Garner the only problem I see there is can't Garner maintain his early season? What's he got 2 tries already?
Well, that's actually a question as well coming up.
Yeah.
All right, we'll round back around to your team,
today.
and after we've sort of reviewed all the questions.
Yeah, don't clog the podcast up with my shite.
That's all right. Archer, real quick, what are your trade-ins and outs for this week?
I think I'm gonna punt Tamo. The question is who for? I was originally planning Tapau. I'm now considering Clemmer. And based on one of the questions this week, I'm also considering Twal.
Yeah.
So I'll leave that. And then I'm probably going to try and make some cash because I spent my cash the other week to bring in Lachlan Lewis. So I've only got 22k currently banked. So I'll need cash to upgrade Tamo. And then following week.
Any round 12 props you targeting? Or is it just the guns you're going for?
I'm just going for guns at the moment. I'm not really considering the round 12, if I'm honest.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm actually considering taking a gamble on someone like Haas or someone really low price just to get me some cash. I've got Napa, so I've got to trade him out probably is the choice. I've got Napa, Morris, and Burns still on my team. So
you're trading Napa out for a cash cow?
Yeah.
Do you...
How much... Sorry, random. Carry on, mate.
Yeah, I was just wondering which one, because there's Zeri, Okenburr, and Chanel, and Haas are probably the main ones this week.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have got a suggestion. I'm thinking Haas just because I'm a bit of a contrarian and I like to go different to everyone else. But
have you thought about Ogden, who potentially can nail down a decent role without Napa? He'll obviously be no good for buys because Napa will be back by then. But
yeah, actually, it could be a good shout. I didn't realize he was listed at second row.
Yeah, sorry. I did look at him earlier, and that's what put me off him because I need a front rower.
I see. I need a second row. I've got no cover at the moment.
Right, okay, then.
Yeah.
So it could work for you then, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, we'll jump into the questions now. First one comes from Chewy. Is Grand Angus back after a good score on the last weekend? We'll start with Welshy.
I don't think he ever left. I think, someone who is an uber gun is in his top 2 probably second front rowers in fantasy. Just coming back from injury, named on the bench, coming off 2 scores, was in the 40s, a big one last week. He's just a gun. Just at his current price, I think he's probably the number 1 trade in, minus all the cash goes. If you're looking for a gun now, at his current price point, for what he can produce, I think he's the best option you can have.
Yeah, what about you, Archer?
I don't. I'm going to go the other way. I'm not quite sold on him just yet. I don't know where he fits in this Roosters pack, whether he gets the same amount of work. It was a decent score last week, and I know that he's the kind of player that can score or break the line or set up tries regularly, so you probably should factor in attacking stats into his score week to week. I guess I'm just looking at the past 2 weeks where he also played 80 minutes. It's not terrible to have a floor of 42, I think was his lowest.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm just not convinced that he doesn't hover around that mid-40s to 50 mark in this team.
Not even outside Cronk?
Well, that's partly dependent on whether Cronk's going to play every week, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. But I just think his base is actually ridiculous as well. I think it was last year. I understand he's moved teams, but I think it's about 35 tackles and over 120, 30 run meters.
Yeah.
I think if you're expecting that as a bear, obviously with a couple of minuses here and there, and his attacking potential of just slapping people off running sideways, I can't see him going much less than 55 this year again. And at his current price, he's an absolute steal.
I'll wait and see. How about you, Random?
I agree with both of you guys. He's that guy that's sort of in that top tier gun in the second row status, or he was last year. But with the new team and with how he's been scoring, I'd wait. So he got the try last week, which boosted his score. He also had like 5 missed tackles and 2 penalties, which is just insane and terrible. And there's also the fact that Orbison isn't going to be in the centres now that Kronk's back. There's no big reshuffle, and Orbison will be coming off the bench again, and he's looked amazing. So I think Orbison finds a way to burn people once again.
When doesn't he look amazing? Come on.
What was that?
When doesn't Orbison look amazing?
Oh, all the time, mate. He's.
Where? Are we talking about rugby league now or handsomeness?
Well, I thought this was all about handsomeness. That's why they got us.
Well, that's why I'm doing so bad this year. Based too much on fantasy potential.
That's your problem.
Yeah. 100%.
The second question from Chewy is: he's looking at picking up one of Twal, Tolman, and AFB for Noah Blake. Who's the better pickup in your opinion, Archer?
So I think for Noah Blake, that it's interesting. For me, I'd rule out Tolman partly because I traded him out and I can't stand the idea that he might be doing well now that he's out of my team.
Yeah, that might have been me as well.
But secondly, I'm not sure it actually was a bad trade. Looking back at his points, we touched on it last week, but Dean Pay and his forwards and the minutes and chopping and changing always has me a bit worried. So I've still got that concern about Tolman. Vanilla Blake is in really good form this year. His points aren't necessarily coming from extra minutes or whatnot. They're coming from just playing like a beast. So I like him, but I think if you're convinced, my only concern with Twal was his round 1 minutes, and since then he's got an increase. So if you're convinced those minute changes are here to stay for him, I would probably lean towards 12 with that DPP, and I like his scoring. That he's got me interested, actually, myself, for a trade.
What about you, Welsh?
I would say 12, but I wish I'd started with him and picked him. I bigged him up in the preseason, and I'm devastated again that I didn't bring him in. I think round 2 we talked about me bringing him in. So I don't want to discuss him, but I think Tolman's he's doing well, but Napa got injured again last week. It only seems this year he's been getting the extras when there's been an injury.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced he can maintain that scoring unless he's playing the big 60, 65 minutes, because he's just a meat the potatoes boy, and he doesn't miss many tackles, doesn't concede too many penalties. He's just tackle, run meters, and unless he's playing the big minutes, I don't think he can maintain much of the 50, 51 is he averaging?
I don't remember what he's averaged in the last few weeks.
I'm sure I saw 51, 52 maybe, but without a predetermined role of over 60 minutes, I wouldn't be looking to bring him in, to be honest. And Fanua Blake, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, he's just been an absolute animal at the start of this year. I'm not sure what minutes he's averaging, but I think it's probably more of a purple patch. He could be last year's SASA. Not having a bigger role, but just upping his game completely. But that's hard to bank on this early in the season, maintaining that sort of big scoring. So reluctantly, I'd say 12.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you guys that Twal's the better option overall. More consistent with his tackle rate than Fanua Blake, and we've touched on Tolman a lot this year, and he's just not getting the time unless, like she said, it's through injury. So I'd probably go Twal as well.
Have you? I think you talked about Paulo. Archer was it last week, the week before? He's not setting the world alight, but he's playing big minutes, and I'd expect if he maintains them sort of minutes moving forward with the way he does play the game, I'd expect an increase in his scoring, which is already half decent now, with the potential to go even better. So I think he's a very good option going forward and plays 12.
Even
Not that you
though,
need to look tough.
but
Sorry.
Paulo's
Sorry,
so like I don't like Paulo because he's hasn't scored above 50 this season. His break even's 24, Twalls is 28, and he's scoring above 50 consistently so far. I feel like Twalls
you're
just
not
all around better.
So sorry, carry on, mate.
No, that was the end of it.
Oh, sorry. No, I can understand what you're saying. And the other way of looking at it is if Paulo started off if he had two big games, two scores over 50, say, then everyone would be looking to trade him in. The next 2 weeks he might score like he has done 40s, and then you start regretting the trade sort of thing. I think there's more up for him. I think that playing the minutes he's getting, I think that them 40s at his bare minimum. So I think the only way is up for him.
I would wait.
Anyway.
I would wait and see. I think this week might be a big litmus test for him because playing against Raiders, he's either going to go big or they're going to exploit him. He's either going to prove a point or Raiders are going to exploit. He's got a bit poor lateral movement in defense, and they against Cowboys they went straight through that middle section. I can see them doing it again to him, whether he stands up and makes a ton of tackles and then goes beast mode in attack with offloads and tackle busts, or whether he becomes lazy and drops off tackles. That, to me, would say a lot about his season.
Right, and now the last question from Chewy. What are your thoughts on Garner? He's made a handy 164,000. He has a break even of 28. Has he peaked after a trialist round 4 score?
I don't think he's peaked. I think he's got some more cash to make. But playing on the edge, you've seen the first half of the Raiders game last week with Bateman, when he scored about 15 in the first half.
Yeah.
When he had pretty much zero traffic going down and didn't get the ball. Unless he's playing 80 Garner, which he hasn't once this season, he's had a couple of injuries already. I'd struggle to see him going over 40 long term. So there is a point where you're going to have to look to upgrade him, but I don't think that point is now. I think he's still got about 2 or 3 weeks of decent scores and price rises in him.
I was similar. I said I'd probably wait at least another week, possibly 2, just because he's on that edge, and I'd want to make certain that if his scoring is being affected by... If original scoring was just a purple patch and was boosted by the tries, or if his lower scores were because it was just, being on an edge and not getting much involvement.
Yeah.
I think he's earned at least a week or 2 to have a look at him. And then, as you said, if you're going to get rid of him anyway, I wouldn't, after that week or 2, if he's still scoring low, I wouldn't hesitate.
Yeah, no, I agree
go
with
with
you
that,
guys.
definitely.
He got 47 week 2, but I think it was inflated by like 10 extra tackles than he has the previous 2 or the other 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's the light on the edge, isn't it?
Yeah, but his break even's 28, so he's not losing cash this week, and he most likely won't lose cash the following week. So I wouldn't move him yet.
No, I definitely go with that.
I guess if you're in like your position, Welshy, where you've got a fair few second rowers and you're looking to free up cash, you could make an argument if you really, perhaps if you didn't have Gillett or someone, you could make an argument that he's made you enough money for now, and if it lets you get someone like Ponga or something, then you could let him go. But other than that,
All right, the next question. You good?
Sorry, no, carry on. I'm finished.
No, you're right. The next question's from Stu Dog. He says it's not really a question, but he wants some analysis on the Bateman and Ponga as a trade this week in regards to their cash increases, break-evens, and their projected score this week.
Sorry.
Archer?
So I looked at it. Ponga's roughly going to make around that 15 to 20k mark if you go by his 2018 average, which was, I think, 55 to 60. He had that injury game and a game in the halves. So I've taken him out, I think it was closer to 60, which is around the 20k mark that he'll go up this week. Bateman, however, you've obviously got less to go on when you're predicting his score. I used around that 55 mark, and he's going to go up like double Ponga. So to me, if you wanted both and you were going to go one this week, I'd probably go with Bateman, depending on your team. Like we talked about with Welshy and having to play the wing fullbacks.
Yeah.
You could make an argument for Ponga now, even though Bateman's probably looking to rise more this week. And I think if I was only going to bring in one, not the two of them, I'd probably choose Ponga. But that's because in my team I've got plenty of centres. Second rows aren't hard to come by. Wing, fullback, and halves are where I'm struggling this season. So an underpriced fullback, regardless of how much money either's going to rise this week, to me, I would jump on Ponga.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with that as well. Like, Ponga's break-even's 51, so there's every chance that he doesn't actually rise in cash this week, or it's just that small margin. And, like, overall, I think Bateman will probably outscore him again this week, and there's rumours circulating he won't be in, and he will be in with Ponga. So I just, if I had a choice, and it was just purely between those two, it'd be Bateman for sure.
Okay.
What about you, Welsh?
Yeah, I'd go with Bateman purely on the fact that I'd like to spite people and try and drag them down.
Don't do it.
No,
Bring them to your level.
It'd be pretty hard to drag them down that far, to be fair. But in all seriousness, you're expecting. So I understand Pongo had a massive year last year, but it's his first game back playing fullback last week. Scored really well. 2 try assists, couple of line breaks. I'd be backing Bateman to match his score at least. The way he's been going this year, regardless of the low sample size. So if you're looking purely on how much they're going to make, if I'd be backing Bateman to beat Ponga, so I'd be getting him this week, regardless of looking at what position I need.
Yeah, so he's going to make more cash this week. You reckon he's going to score roughly the same, so nothing else considered, Bateman?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Alrighty. Next question's from No Worries. Is it ever too early to start buy planning? Should I have started already? And what's the balance between making bank with cows, bringing in players who play the first buy even though they score less, so that you have coverage for the buy, or always go the highest scorer and let the chips land where they fall come the buy rounds? That's a really loaded question. I'll start it off, I guess. It's never too early to do buy planning, but I think it's less of a factor now that we've got the one bye week where everyone's on break. And then, like, it doesn't really matter. If you're bringing in a gun that's going to average 10 points more than another player, you probably make up, especially now from, like, round 5 onwards to round 12, you're probably going to make up those extra points. So I wouldn't consider buy planning until maybe 2 or 3 weeks out. And that's if you're looking at a cash cow or a gun who's going to get a lot of minutes over that extra round 12.
If you're seriously planning now, I think you've got to be bringing in the established guns ready for 12, purely because if you're bringing in a cash cow or a midi, expecting them to still be playing by round 12, you could be in for a bit of a shock. I honestly wouldn't look at bringing them in right now. The chance, you got them extra weeks beforehand, extra chance of injury, suspension, anything like that can play in. I know you can't account for injuries, but obviously the more games they play before the buys, the more chance they get to get injured.
Yeah, so I'm the same. If there's absolutely no other way for me to split a player, then at this stage I may consider buys, but that's probably the only time I'm considering buys at the moment. In the past, I used to plan fairly heavily for the buys, But I think last year showed it's not really as necessary anymore with just those 2 rounds. I feel like you can get by with the extra trades that you're given in those bye rounds. You can kind of, if you need to, make the changes then to get a decent enough score. Otherwise, you can just ride it out. Plenty of people have shown they just ride it out with high scorers. So, you could plan to bring in guys from here from now until round 12 that are going to play then, and for all you know, they might get the extra minutes but still score 20. And if you had have kept a higher scorer, you'd have those points easily. It's just too hard to predict. I wouldn't gamble.
Yeah, definitely this far out. Much too early to be bringing them and expecting them to be a decent score in the buys when who knows what happens from now till 12. 2-3 weeks out, 100% I'd start looking and more putting my trades towards bringing in somebody for 12. But not this far out now.
Yep.
This one's from Filth. How much is head and how much is heart when it comes to picking your team, Welshy?
Oh, I wish it was more head this year. To be, you've obviously got to go on head and fantasy previous, maybe form of late. If I'm not taking a piss now, Arch, but if you've got someone like Archer who is heavily invested in the Raiders, sometimes you might pick, like, if the choice was between Papali and Tapau over a 5-game stretch, you might be inclined to pick Papali.
Yep.
Because that's just the way you play the game. But then really, if you're using your head, Tapau would be the best way to go every day of the week. Minus a big purple patch from Papali. But so I think you've always got to go with the stats that are in front of you for fantasy. Gut calls, if it's a 50-50 shout, maybe like Gillette preseason, or like me, McCulloch, I was dead set that he was going to go back to that 55 average. My gut was telling me and my head, and neither of them have worked out at the moment. But sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's good. It's all a bit of luck, really, especially early season, 5 rounds in. There's some of these players you never expect them to be where they are. In the next 5 rounds, they might start leveling out, and these players you thought were early season have been poor start coming into form. So it's a lot to take into account.
Yeah, I think you, Arch.
I think what you hit on there was a good point. I play far too much with my heart. As you pointed out, it's probably like a 60-40 split for me, heart head.
100%.
The issue with playing with your heart is what you pointed out about the small period where you might get some inflated scores and you might get some lower scores. You're too tempted to switch then, and if you've done the research and you're playing with your head, it's a lot easier to write it out and be like, no, I've looked at this, I should give them more time, I did the research. And so then you won't panic and trade each week and lose these scorers that you originally backed to do well.
Yeah.
And you won't drop them just because of a small bad period. So I think, at least I should switch that to a 60 head, 40 heart at minimum. But too much heart for me.
You've got to respect how you play the game. Sometimes, if you're not got no chance of winning, then have a bit more fun with it. Pick players you enjoy watching, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think if you're up and around, I've been in this business before, past the 10,000s, where I've ended up in the top 500. It's not too hard. The season's played over, 20, 25, 26 rounds. It's a long, long way to go. Injuries happen to, these streaking PODs and stuff like that. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for me, I play like 80% with my head, 20% with my heart, and that 20% is more about people who've broken my heart. So Olsen, Dugan, Nathan Brown, you're never gonna see my team again. But yeah, I love Nathan Brown though, so he can come back. But that's okay. Yeah, so for me, I do try and stick with my head, but I get picks like Arrow this year. I was big on him just because I love watching him play, and he's such a workhorse. Yeah, I try and avoid it, but it still happens.
Have you still got Arrow, yeah?
Yeah. I knew he was going to pump out a big score after people talked about dropping him and stuff. I wasn't concerned. He's a player that's going to hit 71 week, 30 the next. Never captain him, though. Never captain him.
No, I wouldn't trust him, no. Not the captain. Not unless he strung a good 18 games in a row, averaging over 55, then maybe I'd think about it. But, the likelihood of that one is zero, isn't it?
Yeah. Next question comes from Captain Ranter. What one change would you make to fantasy to make the game better? It could be a real change or having my TV broker on the fantasy platform, which would probably be the best change.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
His personally would be to have two extra spots in the starting 13, and that is to dedicate a winger spot and to create a second row edge forward spot, essentially breaking it up a bit. What about you, Archer?
So we touched on this a little while back with my suggestion of the middle forwards and the edge forwards, so that I could have locks in a different position of the second rowers, because there's just seems like there's an abundance of riches in that position, and there's not many choices in the front row top tier guns. I think the other change that I would be tempted to make would be to change the scoring around run meters, hit ups, to somehow reflect negative points perhaps for a hit up that's less than 5 meters, and maybe even bonus points when they're above that if you need to offset the scores a little bit for the props. But basically I'd want to somehow capture that running sideways isn't necessarily good for your team, and I'd want to reflect that in the scores. And at the moment you can run sideways, you can get lots of tackle breaks and get a massive score. I'd like to see, I don't know, maybe -2 or -3 points for a hit up that goes less than 5 meters forwards.
Yeah.
More. I wouldn't mind seeing more reward, like 150 run meters forward, obviously, and adding like an extra about 2 bonus points, 200. So you get like a 300 game, like Tamalolo's done the odd couple of times. Plus 15, that sort of thing. The positional change, I'd like to see it split up a bit more, like Archer and Ranter discussed in his question. It'll make people's teams look a bit different. Everyone's loading up on the locks and that sort of thing. And everyone tries to avoid wingers unless you're Rapper or Mansour back in the day, or Radradra. Force people to make some different decisions, because there's a lot of cookie cutter, and you're going to be, because there's a lot of decent players, fantasy players in these groups, and people are not dull. They do their research. They all start looking pretty similar this season. I definitely think it would give you a wider range of team choices. Not so much to the way the game's played, but I'd like to see like they do in the football over here, like a weekend, like they do at the State of Origin, like a weekend dream team where you can create a team every week, one per position, something like that potentially, and high score. Nothing major prize wise, but
it's a bit of fun.
Yeah, exactly. Just that other dimension. So players you like to watch, sort of thing. You can pile them all in. I think that would be something that might take off. How many people you got entering? Over 90,000.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
It's quite a bit generated, or adding like a money ball sort of thing for that. $5 buy-in every week, sort of thing, within the fantasy website. I'm not sure if there's any rules around that, but that's something I'd like to see, definitely.
Yeah, for
what
me,
about you, Random?
It'd just be bring back the one-on-one tackle stat, please. It's lovely to see. I'd like to see
tackles.
Yeah. So it's more ineffective tackles. Bring back one-on-one tackles. I'd want to see points for successfully getting strips.
Yeah.
And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just bring in a bit more of the stats around the game, and you'd probably see scores either fluctuate. And another one is tackle breaks. Bring them down to like 2 points for a tackle break.
So honestly, I know the game is, over the last couple of years, it's all been built up and you got these big scores, but I wouldn't mind seeing them just go in, because it's so subjective. And some player can seem like they can brush past someone and be awarded 5, and then you'll see someone bump someone off 14 yards and they don't get it, and it's fucking annoying. But it is subjective, what it is to one person is not the same to someone else. And to me, just to cut it out completely is the only way you're going to stop the fucking whining and that sort of
that's something
the
I'd
whining
like
from
to
me
see.
anyway.
Like, I'd like him to sit down and take, like, say, Ponga or Bird or one of those people who get tackle breaks and just sort of take on the line a bit and go through their whole scoring for one game and just talk about where they got their points. So we can see clearly what they sort of constitute as a tackle break and what's not.
Yeah.
And that
Do
would be
it for
amazing.
Fafita, please. Fafita.
No, Fafita's fine. He's not broken. Leave him alone.
I think, no, but you watch the way he plays, he gets studded. He bounces people off, and he gets nearly every set, usually. And then he ends up the game with 3 or 4, and then you've got probably Tedesco and Ponga, racking up 11, 12, running sideways and having a little hit and a spin. Like, it's annoying sometimes, but just the way the game's gone the last couple of years. It's more exciting seeing big scores.
Yeah, I think if the scores were sort of more equaled out and reeled in a bit, like those big scores would be more impactful.
Yeah.
Because every week someone's scoring 70 plus. So it'd be nice to see that sort of brought in a bit. Although we haven't seen a 100 game this year.
So
it'll come.
The other thing that I think is kind of missing at the moment, or not missing, but it's not really accounted for, is quality over quantity. And I bring this up because over on the greenhouse each week, there's a guy that compares each of the teams, and he often looks at stats, and it's actually really entertaining to see like position versus position and how they're traveling on form at the moment. And Alvaro came up against Papali this week, and they looked fairly similar on stats, on things like run meters and such. But when I looked into it, Papa was getting that extra quality. He was just obviously having less involvement, because when you're in a team with, say, Rapana and Kotrick and Chans at the moment, you're not going to get your hands on the ball as often. But if you're one of those players that's always making, 10-meter hit-ups, you're doing a lot more for your team than a guy that gets his hands on the ball all the time but is only making 5-6 meters. So I think that's missing in the scoring. I think at the moment you're rewarded for just getting involved a lot, but your involvement should be good.
Yeah, I agree, but the only problem with that is how subjective it is, how effective the run is, which is, they can't even get tackle breaks right.
Post-contact meters, or picking a point and saying it has to go over this amount of distance, that sort of thing would be useful.
What have they got in American football? There's a yak, yards after the catch, yards after contact, that sort of thing. Yeah. But I know it's hard to monitor, but that is a lot more involved. That's another thing I definitely like to, like you say, the effective runs, because that's just as effective within the game as slapping someone else's hand off.
Yards after contact would be a great stat to have, like, as a substitute for tackle breaks. Because it sort of stops that sideways play being so impactful. But then if you get someone who, like, breaks the line and makes 50-odd meters, it'll raise their score massively.
Yeah. Definitely, that's definitely something I think. But let's be fair, they're not going to make these changes.
No.
I know it's in the fantasy world. This is not for them. The extra work, it's just not going to happen, is it?
They're still struggling with the penalty goals, aren't they? Or was it conversions?
Conversions. They didn't know what they were doing last night. Or last week.
Just run by a bunch of fucking idiots, like.
All right. So the last question comes from Green Machine, and it's about Burns. Are we keeping him? Not keeping him? Cases for and against. And if you can do good things like not loop-de-looping with Garrick and Kahu, would you drop him? Archer?
I'm keeping him. I think I've got Morris, Burns, and Napa all injured. I think for me, that's probably one reason to keep him, is that I'm going to be getting rid of Napa and Morris anyway. And by the time I'm come around to Burns, he'll probably be back. Secondly, wing fullback centre that's potentially keeper. I'm happy to ride him out until he comes back. To me, he might come back earlier. Yeah, especially with the English problems.
Yeah, I was about to think they'll rush him back with this potential arthritis shoulder English scenario.
I think he's a chance of coming back early. I guess it depends. They will want to manage him because he's shown that talent.
Yeah, you're gonna have to manage him, especially if English is out long term. They can't just throw him back in, now, can they?
No. Yeah.
Welshy, do you have Burns?
Yeah, I discussed a bit earlier. The way he's looked early season, borderline wing fullback keeper, centre keeper. The amount that I've had to trade early doors, which is 2 every week so far, just to stabilise my team and start bringing the cashies to make my money for my run later in the season. I think I'm going to keep him. If he does go, if I do get fed up next week, I won't be bringing him back in, regardless of how good does he go, how well he does when he comes back. Just because I don't want to be wasting trades in and out. Because too many times I've run out towards the end of the season by doing that sort of thing, like the Smith debacle last year. But I'm going to hold firm, I think, and get rid of Brown before him.
He was 4 weeks, wasn't he, predicted?
Yeah, after the initial injury, and he's been out for 2. So, although someone said something about 4 weeks again after.
Yes, yeah, last week was it?
Yeah, so he's still within that 3 week margin, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is it just a hammy or was it hammy ankle?
I don't remember. I don't even remember why he's out. So probably just a hemi.
Obviously, hammy's a bit of a pain in the ass, but hopefully it's not more than 4 weeks. And if we hold him March for another week or 2, regardless if he doesn't come back, there's pointless letting him go in. So he either goes this week for me, or he stays.
Yeah,
and he's probably staying for me.
Yeah, for me, I'm keeping him, but see, I don't see him as much of a keeper as you guys do. I think it's because I know that Nakora and Bateman are the centre keepers. They're the guys you want there. And then wing fullback, I don't know if I'd ever start him over Tedesco or Ponga. He could maybe take CNK's spot for my team overall, but he's not a dedicated starter in my team, so he'd end up being in that 7 to 8 or the 5 to 8 role on my bench. So I think if you can trade him for, especially if you've got Garrick and Kahu, who shouldn't be in your team anyway, I think you should trade him if it's going to avoid having to play one of those guys every week. But if you can persevere, keep him.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to keep him. Edwards has got to go first.
Yep.
The plum.
So wait, is Edwards going, or now are you keeping him?
Well, he'll be gone before Burns. I know that.
That's fair. Did you guys have any? That's the last of the questions. So, did you guys have anything else you wanted to cover with your teams, or?
I was going to suggest. I know we go through the captains, and we do pot of the week. I was going to suggest the Bruce Banner of the week because I love that term. Whoever coined that term. So rather than the pot of the week, just this guy. We haven't had a banner yet. So who are you predicting to get the banner? And I'll start to give you guys a second to think of your answers. I think Tuivasa-Sheck. And I hope not, because he's got 28% ownership, and I do not have him, so it's going to hurt. But I think he might go huge trying to carry the Warriors up against the Bunnies. I think Warriors will probably still get done, but to me it's one of those games where he's going to, as the captain, try and lead them.
This is a good shout.
You're right.
My first banner, I go. I think Bateman. Just if he nabs a try, on top of what he's already been doing, he's going to go pretty close to that 100, and I'm going to bag him to get first.
Is Moses defending on the left this season? Does anyone know? Because Bateman might be running against him if he keeps that edge spot this week.
Ooh,
No, Moses.
No idea.
Right, I think Moses has been with. Has he been on the side? He's been with Nakore, hasn't he? I could be wrong.
Haven't watched closely enough, so I'm not sure.
To be fair to him, he's he's looked half decent in defence this year. Sometimes he does a bit of the Maloney, doesn't he? Flies out the line, gets bounced, but it's an effective for the defensive line.
I was just thinking about your Benner prediction, because if Bateman's up against him, he might actually pick up a try or a couple of line breaks. It could be that Benner.
But yeah, Bateman I'd go for first banner this year.
For me, I'm going to go someone we didn't mention, but Cameron Smith for first banner. He's up here against the Cowboys. He always has big games against the Cowboys. I think last year he got a 97 against us.
Please, Cam.
I don't have him, so I'd like that not to be the case. But I think he the stars realign and he has just a massive game this week.
Are the Storm playing the first bye or the second bye?
They're playing the second bye.
Right, okay.
So he's not someone that's going to be divided because of bye talks, at least. But yeah, if you could have Cam Smith or Mahoney, it's clear you're going to have Smith every day of the week, regardless of if he drops one game.
Yeah. Did he drop much cash last week? What did he score? 40 odd?
42.
He scored 42. It hurt.
I don't know how much. 13k. He's fine.
He was my captain. Yeah, it hurt on the week when people captain Fafita.
It's always the same. It's just annoying, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's just fucking fantasy.
Who are your top 5 captains for this week?
Go on,
you go first, lad.
Okay. So I'm going to go against what I've done in the past, and I'm going to say Farah, because he's got to be number 1 now. He's just earned it. I think I can no longer keep denying it. He's just scoring so bloody well. So I would be placing him at number 1. I would say DC at number 2, because damn, he's good. Then I'd have Smith at number 3, because I'm hoping more than anything. And then I really don't know for my last 2 spots. Captain is so hard at the moment.
Cookie after a return to form last week.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe,
no.
See, Fafita, I'm thinking possibly is a chance, but Roosters, I don't know. I think Fafita probably would be my next one, because Roosters, while being good in defence and not usually conceding many line breaks, they can...
Is Gallen back?
Yes, I was just about to bring that up. Gallen is back this week.
Oh,
the rock nugget.
I changed my answer there, and I'll go back to Cookie.
What about you? Oh, yeah, you got one more.
Then I'm just going to throw in a smoky and say Lachlan Lewis, because out of hope.
That's exactly what I was thinking. What about you, Welsh? No, I'll do mine last.
Right, okay. I'm going to go Cookie after he bought himself in last week, so he's obviously planning something.
He drove his price down enough, he's happy.
I don't care how well DC's been playing. I will not put a half in my top 5. So I'm just going to go boring. I'm going to go with the Cooks there. So Cookie 1, Smith 2, return after the 42. And as we discussed against the Cowboys, he's got a decent record. Fafita's my captain, so I'm not going to put him in the top 5. Tempting fate. 3, I'll go to Pau. 4, Farah, and I'll go a POD shout for Bateman at 5.
For Bateman, was it?
Yeah, I suppose Bateman should be first, really, if I'm planning for the banner. But no, 5, I think, against the Eels.
You're a traditionalist, aren't you, Welshy? All forwards.
Get in there, son. Consistent.
You're good. For me, it'd be Cook first. He's traded himself in. He's clearly gonna. It's all fantasy. He's really controlling fantasy with his play.
Do you see how he gets his highest score of the year and Smith gets his lowest by a long way? There's something going on there.
He just knows. So Cook for me off the bat. Then it would have to be McInnes. McInnes has been great this year. Farah comes in 3rd. Unlucky to be 3rd, I think, because he's I think he's averaging the highest out of any player. But I also... 70, he's averaging almost 70. And he's got a good base of 60, but he had 50 tackles the last 2 weeks. And then the 2 weeks before that, he had 3 tries in the first two games. So I think he'll come back down to earth a little bit. And then Murray. Murray up there.
Ooh,
He's doing great. Is that 4 or 5?
4.
Then
yeah.
Smith. Smith's in there. Done.
Who would be a POD captain?
I want to say Murray, but everyone has him. But I don't think anyone's like tempted enough to captain him. Other than that, maybe Adam Reynolds.
Nice.
Yeah, A-Ray could get quite a few try assists or line break assists up against Warriors. Depends which Warriors turn up, I guess.
Yeah, they're not at home, so I don't think it'll be the good Warriors.
I think Burgess might be in for a good score this week against the Warriors. So that should bode well for Cookie with a couple of assists, but we shall see.
All right. We're getting close to that 60-minute mark, so we'll wrap it up now, I guess. Real quick, did you guys have any questions for your teams personally? You more set on your trades now?
Absolutely not. But
I think you should get Gillette out of your team and shore up one of your positions.
I won't get rid of him this week because I think he offered me more of a solid score for this round of scoring. So, but for sure, next week I'm definitely going to get one gun, and it's just a toss up out of getting someone like Archambault in. I don't think I'm going to get. I don't need a second row, so it won't be Ogden. If he had front row duel, I might take a punt on him, but it'll probably be Archambault or Chanel for me, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's just a toss-up between those two, depending how they go this week. What about you, Arch? You're all set with your trades?
Yeah, I think so. I might go have a look at Ogden. I might have a close look at Twal to consider whether or not I bring him in. Although I'm hesitant on that, I might just go to Powell Clemmer.
I think Powell's safer, but
I've got 2 unrelated questions.
Yeah.
One, want to swap teams?
Yeah, sure.
It's about all I've got this season, I only hope. 2, Welshy, how's the Avatar travelling and when's our next bet?
Hey, have I got one more week left of that?
No, you're done with it, mate. You can change it.
Well, I quite enjoyed the last one, to be honest. Yeah, I'll take you on. We'll go. You pick a second rower, and I'll pick a second rower, like we did with the Bird. I was quite unlucky with that one. I thought Bird. They both scored shithouse, Fitzgibbon and Sturgis. So go on, you go first, and I'll pick the player to beat him.
Let me think on it, and I'll come back to you on the forum. And while I'm talking, just the last thing while I remember it, because I've written it down on a bit of paper, the community team.
I was going to get to that. I have it down the
definitely.
bottom.
Get in and vote, guys. Each week, I forget about it until there's a reminder. So,
big shout out to Milchie and Captain Ranter and Rippin and Terran. I think was also in there doing a lot of work this week with the community team. So big shout to the guys that are sort of running it and keeping it all together.
Yeah, well done, boys. Well done.
I hope we trade out McCulloch this week.
Me too.
I hope we do so he goes. Can I take over the community team? As they still make all my decisions, but I own it.
You just have to follow the community team next year. I think I might start with the cookie cutter community team as my base.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. So we'll be here next week. I think I'll be finishing a night shift, so I'm gonna be tired of shit. But we'll be here next week. Post up your questions. As always, if you want to get involved, jump on the podcast or something. Let Welshy or I know. Or Archer, he'll be here next week as well, so
Probably.
It's because you don't have a job. It's alright. This is your job now.
Yeah, you bum.
But feel free to jump in and ask us questions about your team and get really shit fantasy advice.
Standard.
Oh, actually, we worked out timelines. Standards tapes will hopefully be in next week. He actually got postage tracking, so we may have the tapes next week of him talking.
Yeah, but have you got anything to play them on?
Shit, I'll have to go to JB Hi-Fi and see what I can get.
Nice.
All right, lads. See you guys next week.
See ya.
I'll catch you, boys. Ta-ra.